Condense it.
All right,
Yeah.
Well,
let's do it.
the house itself was built around 1850. We have a couple of articles where they talk about Jacob Hetherington, who is the gentleman she was talking about. He owned, 660 some acres of Bellaire at one point in time. When he first got here, and this is how Captain Fink comes into it, he came here with his family, he stayed, they left and went back to England. When he stayed, he met Captain Fink, and he started working for him. And then eventually, and Captain Fink ran textiles and different things up and down the river. He had barges. So from there, Jacob then rented a barge off of him and started doing his own work, pulling coal out of the hill down here. And I believe that red building is in the way, but it's right around that red building. You can see the more fall comes on and everything kind of starts to die down, you can actually see the portal to his first mine where he started pulling the coal.
Where's that?
Right, if you continue down the street right down here,
Yeah.
you'll see the abandoned 7 Inn.
That
Okay?
was where his mansion was.
That's where he built his home.
Yeah.
And then Bellaire subsequently tore it down in 1950, 60.
I can't remember. Yeah.
So they tore it down because they're not very smart at keeping history here. But they did keep the bust of Jack, which was his mule, and he's who helped him basically start his empire. You know, it was him, his wife, some friends, and his mule taking coal out of the hill, loading it in a cart, and Jack the mule taking it down to his barge and loading it onto the barge, and away they went. So when he built his home, in the archway, he put a concrete bust of the mule Jack. And he actually walked the mule through the house before anybody else was allowed in it.
Yeah, the mule blesses his mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then this house was built for his granddaughter.
Yeah, and Lyde died right here.
Yeah, she died in the front of the, this is like a
How did she die?
Heart attack. Yeah.
How old was she?
Oh, she was up there. She wasn't like, probably 50s. She wasn't that neck of the woods. She was more like probably 60s, 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the only death that we know of inside the house, and that was right
That we have
there.
documented, but
Yeah.
some of the old people here in Bellaire, they always said that this used to be a funeral home, but we don't have any documentation of that, so
Yeah.
we just kind of put that off to the side.
Yeah,
But a lot of the old people.
Until we can find out for sure. You would use the living room in here for the showings. You'll notice there's like
the
wooden,
arches.
there's like little wooden pegs all around inside here. And they would hang curtains and things like that there.
Oh, that's what those were for. We were wondering about
The
that.
pegs are for what?
They're for hanging.
As a funeral home.
Yeah,
And curtains from
Oh, I see.
But, again, without that's just what we were told. We've also been told that, kind of through the grapevine as well, that there was a gentleman who wanted to buy the house. And the Hetheringtons used to have a spring up on the hill here, and he wanted to buy the house and they wouldn't sell it, so he would dump poison into it, make them sick. He would, kind of wait, see if anybody would die, and kind of anybody would sell it. They wouldn't sell it. He would go back, and then eventually they said he was caught. He never killed anyone. He made some of the, people that lived here deathly ill, but
But I think the police officer in Bellaire's name that caught him was named McGarry. I'm pretty sure that's what his name was.
so, but
Well, and then we've got French and Indian War. We've got caves up here. The earth has really overgrown them because it was like 1754. But the Shawnee would have their ceremonies up here on top of the hill. And if you go out back and if it's a clear night, you can see perfect alignments and constellations. And I mean, the planets have been visible, most of the summers, but here it's just like superimposed. You can truly see how, like, the night sky. So we think that that's probably one of the reasons why they picked this part, plus it was by the river. And then the coal mine fires that happened under the Bellaire House, because coal mine portal number 1 goes from Pinch Run all the way to St. John Catholic School, which is on the north end of town. And we found in a gossip section of the old newspapers that Jacob Hetherington had put, it was rumored that he had spent $8,500 to put out the fires in the mines.
which back then obviously was a lot more than what it is now. But that's one of the reasons the house, if you notice here, and if you even drive down the road, you'll notice that the hill that the house sits on now slowly goes down, slopes down into it. It's the flat down by where the portal is, because it's actually sitting on top of it. Plus there are catacombs all up through Bellaire from here all the way up into town that run down into the river, because they used to, the servants, as they like to be called here, anything else in the house kind of gets a little upset.
Yeah.
They were abolitionists, and they would run.
Captain Fink, Jacob Davis, and Jacob Hetherington were abolitionists, and they would meet Captain Fink at the river, and he would say that they were his, and they were helping him, and he'd take them to North or to New Orleans, and they would reach their freedom.
They would basically
So this was a stop on the Underground Railroad?
Yes.
They would essentially
Wow.
rotate like servants out. Their quarters was up in the attic.
We have sense. I'm getting chills. Hi
What was
guys.
it about the attic?
That's where the servants stayed,
Okay.
and they would.
Oh, okay.
So
that makes
as they
sense.
would, cycle them out, more would come. So
Mhm, scares.
And we have census records that says servant, servant, servant. And there was, they took on, well, I didn't know this at the beginning, but through research and working with the paranormal community, we understood that the servants here actually took on the Hetherington name because they had to. So there's a lot of servants that have the last name as Hetherington.
So Lon died here in the dining room here where we're at now, and when she passed away, her brother Edwin, he lived here as well, and they were super close. Like I don't know if it's in the house or if we have a copy of it. His draft card.
Yes.
She signed it for him. She did everything for him.
Well, their dad, though, Alex, was committed to a lunatic asylum, and their mom, we don't know too much about her.
Yeah, there's nothing really written too much about her. There's not a lot of papers.
Yeah,
There's
I don't know what
not
is
a
up
whole
with
lot
her.
of anything.
But Lai did overtake when Alex Hetherington, the father that was the one that was committed, him and Lai took over the coal mining company. But then, unfortunately, Dad got committed, so it all went to Lai. And but at that time, it was pretty bankrupt because Alex. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just saying history because Alex, he wasn't well.
He didn't manage it well.
Yeah, he just
because
wasn't
of his mental state.
visibly well. Yeah.
But Edwin tried to connect with her here in the room here. Similar to how we have the table here, he would bring what we call psychics and mediums in and would try to connect with them. And through that, I personally feel from just, being in the house and different investigations and sessions that the things that he opened didn't properly close them. Because for me, this place is like, the house itself is like a person, and it has a personality, and it reacts off of who's in it. And it will listen and it will learn. There's one night they were doing a session here, her and I had to go to work, her and I had a conversation out on the porch, and later in the evening they were doing after the team got here, they were doing a session upstairs, and it had repeated part of our conversation back to
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like it soaks it up. It soaks up who's here, and it's kind of like we make contact with the house spirit, so to speak, the family, and then sometimes we make some very interesting contact here. So it just depends. It really kind of almost depends on what mood the house is in as to what.
Well, I hope you're in a good mood tonight.
Yeah, we had. I think.
about-
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead. No.
Please go ahead.
No, I was just saying. One evening, they actually had a lady come through and say, "Sit down. I want to give you a reading."
Yeah.
And started spitting out different
tarot cards. Like it was. She said she wanted to be referred to as the queen, but that's a tarot card too.
The Empress.
Yeah.
So, with your question, I'm sorry.
What went on in the basement right below us?
The basement below us is where, when you get down, you go down this way, and as you're coming around, you'll notice where the furnace is at. If you shine your light back behind the furnace, you'll see the holes in the brick wall. Back when they were using the house to take the servants, back and forth, they would, if they needed to, that actually used to be opened around where the foundation is. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like snap one thing. I was snapping at you, but I couldn't think of it. But that used to be open. Now it's kind of like filled in, almost like a mud room. But then that's where they would take them in, through, and then down into the river.
And there's another underground portal. Well, I don't want to call it a portal, but passageway in the alley, maybe like 2 streets over, and you can still see it. Like you would lift it up, and people would crawl down into the catacombs and get into, I guess, the weeds and get on the boats. Yeah.
How did you come in possession of the place?
It's a pretty bad story. We were affected by 2 flash floods and it took down our home. And I found the place on a foreclosed list and I had enough money to get it. And it was a good price and I didn't know any history about it. But it was a beautiful big house and that's what we wanted. So that's what we did.
How long ago was that?
2000 was the flood, 2002. No, that's when Lane was born, 2004.
Mhm.
Yeah, 2004. Yeah. It's
How
been
long did
here
you stay here?
About 16 months.
Long enough.
And then we came back. We had to come back. I mean, it's hard. It was hard. It was hard trying to pay for 2 homes at once. You know, and I was in graduate school and I wasn't making great money because I was working full time and part time, but that was tough.
So what happened with, you sold this house and then you rebought it?
No, I
You
found
owned
it.
it the whole time?
Yes, I
Oh.
filed bankruptcy on the house, believe it or not. I
Okay.
did. At the very end of it, when things were really bad, I just said, screw this place, I'm out. I'm never coming back. And I hightailed it to Massachusetts. I took a job up there as a psychologist and a psychic at Hex, Old World Witchery. And then one day the code enforcer, Jim Chase, God rest his soul, he's no longer with us, but he said, get your ass back to Bellaire. You owe me money every day until you cut your grass. And I'm like, Mr. Chase, I don't own the house anymore. And he said, yes, you do. You need to come home now. So I came home and turns out that nobody, what they told me at that time, my attorney, nobody wanted the house and they squashed the debt and Bellaire said, you're still responsible for it. So here we are today. But years later, we found out like the zombie mortgage stuff. And I guess the file sat on the desk for a very long time and nobody did anything with it. And Jim Chase, when he looked up the deed, my name was still on the deed. It's never left it. So he made sure that I paid for everything. And so, you know, then we had to come back and we rented it out some families and it just didn't work out for them. Honestly, they wouldn't stay.
Mhm.
The last family,
Because of paranormal?
mhm. Yeah, the last family lasted almost a year. And then they went downstate West Virginia. They walked in with like 7 people and when we got the phone call the day that they were leaving, we had a land contract and everything. Thank God that didn't go through because of all the crap that we went through later. But the day that they were leaving, they were packed up and they said, come and look at the house and make sure we're not responsible for any damage. And we came in and there was only 3 of them left. Like everybody else just left and disbanded. And
The longer you stay here, the more the house tries to split you apart and divide you.
yeah,
We've even had the one team came and stayed for
5 days.
5 days, and now I don't even think
They
they
don't
talk to
even
each
talk
other
to
anymore.
each other. And that wasn't just them, it's been other teams that have tried to stay here longer too.
We had that problem at Rhodes Hotel
Roads, yeah.
in Indiana.
Mhm.
I mean, we would go there and we'd all be happy, and as soon as we'd get there, we'd all be getting these big fights.
Mhm.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
We all did.
Yeah.
Well, what was it, the one place we went to, that nursing home?
The nursing home,
Bell
Bell
nursing
nursing
Bell
home.
nursing home, yeah, that was-
Like even when you
Yeah.
pull in that town, like
That was-
As soon
everything
as you went
changed.
in,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like
That was bad.
Belaire's
Like-
weird.
Yeah, that was bad on him, and like he snaps. He's not a snapper. He don't snap people
It changed.
unless he was in
my-
uniform.
Changed me too,
Yeah.
changed
But he
Lisa.
completely snapped at one of our team members, and I was like,
We won't snap at you guys.
I'm thinking,
Thank you.
yeah, but what will
as
they
soon
do
as you
to
pulled
us?
into the town, everything just,
You have a gun too.
just was weird.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's like you hear the.
Now, where's this fellow place?
But yeah, they
The
had it all
Bellaire
packed
House.
up. They were
It's-
done.
I don't even think they took
Yeah,
They even, if you
Yeah.
go upstairs, the door that goes up into
Kim
the
Davis.
attic, they used to have the original
77.
doorknob on it.
Which
And
one?
the gentleman asked if he could
Almost
change it
together,
because he
I think.
wanted to be
Yes,
able to
I-
lock it where nobody could go upstairs.
Mhm.
They wouldn't tell us what was happening here, but every now and then we would get phone calls and have conversations, like the whole thing. And it was the only one he wanted to do it to. That door that goes into the attic. He was just like, can I put a regular doorknob on there so I can lock it? Because I don't want anybody going upstairs.
Mhm.
And we're like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. That's whatever. It's cool.
Whatever you gotta do.
He
man,
kept the
we get
original
it.
door, and he's like, I'll keep the original and all the parts. If you guys want to put it back on, you can. He said, I would just feel better if I could lock it. And that's all he said. And we're like, okay, is everything all right? And he's like, yeah, it would just feel better if I could lock it. So that's why you'll notice there's a regular doorknob on that door.
He took the fan blades off the room here. Not in this room, but the one above us, right over here. We still don't know why he did that. And then we had put them back on. And then I guess a team took them off. So we just left them off.
I don't know what it is with that.
Rami, that's your room.
Yeah, that.
No, he's gonna be in the attic.
No, the basement, I thought it was a lounger in the basement.
Oh, don't go
I think he's gonna.
I won't.
No, sleep down there.
I might sleep in the basement, but before,
No.
I mean, the attic. I might sleep in the attic, but first I have a question about that. Heard a few stories about Emily Davis. Can you go a bit into that?
Yeah, the first EVP and even disembodied voice I'd ever heard in this house was with a team called Ohio Valley Paranormal Research Investigations. They were out of Portsmouth, Ohio, I think that's what you call it. At that point I thought I was losing my mind because I didn't believe. I just didn't. And you know, being a psychologist, you don't believe that stuff. So trained not to believe it. But Emily came through on an old, like we call them spirit box now, but back in the day it was a hack shack. And she said, hi, this is Emily. And then Mike said, what's your name? She said, Emily. And she said, what's your last name? Davis. And then she said, hi, Kristen. And she said she wanted to go to heaven. And there's another Emily Davis that used to be friends with Jacob Hetherington. And she was an older Emily Davis. So there's two. There's two Emily Davises associated with the house. And you'll see that a lot. People with same names come in. They don't know each other, but they have the same first and last name. That happens an awful lot. But yeah, Emily, I don't know. I don't think that she's just a sweet, cute little girl. I think she's a little bit more negative, to be honest with you. I truly think that. But we do have other child spirits here. But people always bring Emily toys and dolls and offerings, and they try to make communication with her. A lot of people say that Emily leaves with them. And there's times where we hear nothing from Emily. So we can only assume that maybe she did. You know, we just don't know.
Is that why there's all that child stuff in the attic?
Yeah, everybody's trying to talk to Emily. Yeah.
Sometimes people, they'll tell us they'll get her to roll the ball. There's a large one and a couple small ones. Sometimes they say she'll roll them down the steps to them. So they'll take the ball back up, stick it up there, and it'll come back down. Just
Yeah.
depends.
I don't know. I know Edwin's predominantly here. Sometimes the Hetheringtons, I think they just leave like enough's enough. They're like, we're tired of people. We're going on a spiritual vacation. But they always seem to come back. I just, I know it's not good for what we do, but I wish that if they would find that resting spot, just be at peace. Why keep coming? I don't want to come back here. I don't want to come here at all. You know what I mean? If I'm dead, I don't want to be here. I just want to be maybe in a spiritual beach somewhere with a whole bunch of cats.
I like that idea.
Yeah. I have 5 new little babies.
Aww.
Yes, a mother cat showed up on my porch on September 1st. She was panting. I knew she was going to have these babies. And then all of a sudden I took her in my room, and before you know it, she's popping out 5 black cats on a full moon.
Oh, neat. That's awesome.
So I've got 5 little babies up in my house.
Just showed
Aww.
up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So was the front room, Rami's room, the one where the dog was thrown against the wall? Who wants to know that?
Is that this one?
Yeah.
Above it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where when I go back to with whether it's teams or even like with one show, was it Paranormal Lockdown when they came through, it seemed like they focused a lot here, the room upstairs, and then up in the attic where what was it, Nick was where he was sleeping. But it just seems like, I don't know if this is just like
The ley line.
right, because it just seems like this is where Bly died, this is where Edwin tried to connect with her. Upstairs is where she was held down and the dog was thrown against the wall. And then above that is where, multiple investigators and even some people that come through for tours, like we were just given a tour, they'll stop in that spot and they'll just ask what happened here, because they either feel heavy or something has happened or happening to them physically, They'll start sweating, they'll get hot or they'll get cold. I don't know if it's just all that energy there, just over the years with the ley line and everything, it just has intensified. But you never know what spot of the house is gonna really kind of do anything.
Yeah, it's so unpredictable. It could be here, it could be there, it could be in the kitchen. I mean, I saw a big black mass come out of the floor one day. I was in there cooking for not, for an event, not for when we lived here. And I was pretty confident, I learned the ropes and, and then all of a sudden I'm looking down at the floor and I'm like, Carrie, did you just see that? She says, oh my God, yes. And I'm like, oh my God, like that really came up out of the floor. And she said, yeah, and I checked the oven. I was like, nothing's burning. It can't be smoke from the oven. So that was really weird. That was strange. Yeah. But we've had so many different.
How did you feel when you saw that? Did you feel scared? Did you feel intimidated? Did you feel like it was bad?
I don't feel it was good. I didn't feel it was just like this big static rain cloud, just like Linus energy, with the blanket, it just kind of, yeah.
Was there a smell to it or anything?
No, no. And then it just kind of went away. But that's what happened when I was in that room with Bella. The same thing. It just, motion like this and keeps coming and it keeps coming, and rub your eyes thinking it's a trick of the dark, and it's still there, and then all of a sudden just can't move. Can't do anything.
I wonder if that's like the darker than dark that we experience. Have you ever experienced that, the darker than dark in areas?
I
Is it
think I know
similar
what
to
you
that?
mean. Yeah, I think I know. Yeah, I think I know what you mean. You really, I don't know how to explain it. I guess it's just supernatural, It's nothing that we're taught or are supposed to experience in our society, but yeah, it's different. But I tell you, when we didn't do anything when the world shut down. We just said, oh, vacation from the house. Yes, and life was so normal. I mean, it was so wicked normal. I couldn't believe it. Like, we actually all had a good time. But when we opened back up, a lot of people were, will you please do a live? Will you do a portal session? We did that, and it lasted, 20 minutes?
It wasn't even that long.
We just
The box we had started, it growled at us.
What happened?
We were using portal box
Uh-huh.
when we were doing a session, because we asked when we came down, as we were opening back up, we came in to clean, sanitize everything, get everything ready. So we was like, yeah, we'll do a session. So we did one. We fired up the portal box, and maybe 15 minutes, 13, 14, whatever. But about 15 minutes in, the box had already growled at us twice. And then the third time, it growled at us again. And then same thing with like just this black mass inside the room here. Because we had these open, just kind of up the wall and went. And she looked at me and I looked at her. She's like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Let's leave.
Yeah.
And it was just got really oppressive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just all at once. It was just like super heavy. It's just like, because once we got outside, it took a couple minutes before, like, to catch my breath and stuff like that, just like, because it was just so heavy all at once. So.
And that's what you were experiencing in your dreams about this house.
Yeah. There's a whole chapter in the next book about dreams, people having dreams before they come here.
Mm-hmm.
I have kosher salt. I know everybody likes sea salt, Himalayan salt. Trust me, kosher salt in this house works. I've tried it all, and if I have a tip, I'll tell you. But swish it back and forth, or like shake it up in a bottle, dump it on your feet before you go. Take extra, get a baggie, and put it back and forth. Swish your feet back and forth in your shower when you get home. It's important. It really is. Definitely in here.
So what kind of dreams?
I just kept dreaming about this fireplace, and there was a child, and but then it was like the arched doorway. I'm like walking, I'm trying to get out, and it's grabbing me and pulling me, and I couldn't.
A black mass.
I couldn't. Yeah, it was a black mass. I couldn't get away from it.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I don't look up anything on anything that I go to.
Just stick together.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be alone. Just don't. And nothing may happen, and that'd be great, but just be careful, sometimes I walk in here when he's cutting grass. I'm like, I'm gonna clean this house by myself, and all the doors are open, all the windows are open, all the curtains are open. Sometimes I'll go next door and I'm like, anybody want $30? Just sit here and just sit with me. You don't have to do anything, just sit here.
Just don't run if you see something.
Yeah, or let me know.
Give me a caw
And don't sleep in the attic.
You'll be fine.
So at the end of the morning or whatever, when we leave, just lock it up and.
Yeah, just lock it up. Make sure the coffee pots are turned off. If you can, take the trash up to the trash things, cans, and just leave the heat at 45. You'll probably get cold tonight, so crank it. I mean, be comfortable. And if you don't need heat, turn the air conditioners on. Just be comfortable. We don't want you to pretend like you're at home and do what you do. Yeah.
And you salt on our feet so that nothing
Yes.
follows us home. What about sage?
Sage is good for your human body. It is, but in this house, it's like shooting an elephant in the ass with a BB gun. It really is.
Yeah, it does
People,
do
we
it.
find sage all the time. It's like, great, that's awesome, but it's not effective. It's just not. Now, when we do cleansings, because sometimes we have to, we use myrrh, frankincense, and sage, and kosher salt, and we mix it with water, and then we just, some other things, rue, vervain, and just try to balance, neutralize, and sometimes it's effective, and then sometimes it's quiet and it dies, and then it explodes. It's like I said, this house is
It's not an
thing.
everlasting thing.
No, it's
a
always
temporary.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's even like the sage or Palo Santo or anything like that. I do that for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I sage at home. My body, not my house, but I do that at home. But here, I've learned throughout the years, it's just use the kosher salt. It seems like it's the only thing that works, and I don't feel like it's psychological. I really feel like it's more metaphysical than anything. That's where I get into it with people that are psychologists. They're like, "You're crazy." Well, come on over then. You stay the night. Stay a week. It's all in the house. See how you feel.
All right. Everybody good? Yeah.
All
I think
right.
we're all
Thank
good.
you.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
if you guys need anything, I'm just up the top of this hill.
Okay.
Right up there. So just give me a call if anything happens or
If you hear screams,
I won't hear them.
We'll shoot a fire gun up.
Or Nikki.
Bring all the salt
you
you
hear
got.
somebody running going,
That means my ass just left the house and you guys come down with them. Like, nope.
Well, it's such a pleasure to meet all of you.
You too.
Pleasure to meet you too.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
See us.
I half expected them to run out of here.